Since our first event in October of 2018, we're now at 260,000 pounds.
Before we get started, we're going to hit you with the hot seat. So you ready to roll?
Let's do it, man.
All right. Rock, country, or other?
Country.
Mountains or beaches?
Beaches.
Coffee, tea, or energy drink?
Coffee.
Name a movie that makes you laugh.
Oh, man.
Name a movie that makes you cry.
Step Brothers.
Name a movie. That's a movie that makes you laugh and cry.
And Beyond the Pines
There
makes
you
me
go.
cry.
Sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise.
Text or call?
Text.
One thing you're afraid of?
Ooh. Having my boat go down underneath me.
Good one.
Yep.
Instagram or Twitter?
Instagram.
Winter Olympics or Summer Olympics?
Winter.
Fiction or nonfiction books?
Fiction.
Audio, paper, or Kindle?
Paper.
Last book you remember reading?
That would be Walk the Darkness Down by Daniel McGarrigle.
Nice. The Office, Friends, or Parks and Rec?
Oh, The Office.
Which technological gadget do you rely on most in your daily life?
Definitely the iPhone.
You and everyone else. Something you're proud of?
260,000 pounds of traps and garbage out of Florida's coastal fisheries.
What an awesome answer. That's fantastic. If you could have a superpower permanently, what would it be?
Organizing volunteer help.
I think you already have that. I think you must already have that. What's a hidden talent or skill that you possess that people might not know about?
Oh, man. Let's see. I can sing a little bit.
Okay. Cats or dogs?
Dogs. Mine's sitting here next to me.
Mine's under my table. Breakfast, lunch, or dinner?
Breakfast.
Spinning rod, fly, or conventional?
I don't get to fish with it much, but a fly rod.
All right, we got a great conversation with Neill Holland from Ocean Aid 360. This is a really cool organization that I fully support because they do really cool things. They include a lot of people. They pull trash out of the ocean, clean up stuff. Who wants to look at trash? So fantastic organization, Ocean Aid 360, and we're going to get to a great conversation with Captain Neill Holland in just a second. Just want to tell you a couple of things that are going on. We have a great giveaway right now with our friends at Tackle Direct and St. Croix. We're giving away a Rift jig rod, spinning rod, and it's going to be something that a lot of people are going to want. We've already had a bunch of entries for that. They're pairing this with a hat and a dry bag. So a whole St. Croix gift opportunity this month, September. We're giving away that. Also want to remind you about the Coffee Club subscription. We have Black Rifle Coffee Cup right here. I just opened mine this month, and the way that I get my subscription is 2 bags a month, and they surprised me. And this month I got the Beyond Black, this one, which is really cool. It's got the Jamie Caldwell type night vision goggles that we used when we were tarpon fishing for the night show. That was really cool. And then Freedom Roast. So the Beyond Black is it's a little darker roast, and the Freedom Roast is a medium roast. And I gotta say, man, after getting all of these different coffees in the mail every month and trying them, I've really gotten to where I really like this medium roast. It's fantastic. But you could also be surprised with coffee every single month, and you'll see that you can get 25% off of the first month if you use the code BLASTOFF25. BLASTOFF25 is the code that you use. You find that either on the website, TomRowlandPodcast.com, or on the Instagram, Tom Rowland Podcast. On the Instagram, go to the link tree, and you can find that. All right, so that's up. All we got for the news for this week. Definitely get yourself also, for your dad, for your uncle, for somebody that loves coffee. Coffee Club is a great gift idea, so keep that in mind. All right, now we're going to go back to Captain Neill Holland from Ocean Aid 360 to finish up this amazing conversation.
Hi, I'm Captain Neill Holland with Ocean Aid 360, and you're listening to the Tom Rowland Podcast.
Neill, what's up? How are you, man?
Hey, Tom, happy to be here with you. Thanks for having me on.
Man, I'm happy to have you on. I just absolutely love what you're doing. I think that it's so cool. OceanAid 360, you just got off your Space Coast event, 5,000 pounds or more of debris out of the ocean. That's fantastic.
Thank you so much. Yeah, there was a 2-day weekend-long tournament. We had Captain Blair Wiggins out there with his brand new deck cat, bad to the bone bay boat. And a lot of excitement in the air. We had about 75 plus volunteers and took in 5,000 pounds of debris, people scouring all corners of the Indian River Lagoon to
awesome.
make a great impact there.
That's so awesome. So what was the book that you just finished?
I'm glad you asked. Yeah. So my college roommate, he just put out his second novel and to a decent amount of fanfare. His name is Daniel or Danny McGarriel, and he wrote a book called Walk the Darkness Down, and it's set in seaside town in New Jersey. Main character is a commercial fisherman, and it's about his experience and his wife's experience going through the birth of their first child and trying to make a family life out of being on the water all the time. Wow. And that sort of thing.
Is he the new Randy Wayne White?
Yeah, exactly. Admittedly, there's some tragedy in there, so it's not quite got the kind of, I don't know, the same feel as a Randy Wayne White book, but I liked it. I thought it was great.
It sounds like that's a good strategy, I think, for a writer to have a character that's interesting enough that you can expand on it and go like the Joe Pickett novels.
Oh yeah,
those are pretty good. Joe Pickett, and then like Carl Hyacin had kind of those characters that went through his books.
Yeah, and Randy's Doc Ford stuff, of course.
Yeah. It's all good. That's fantastic. So tell me about OceanAid 360 and what you just did in the Space Coast. We just talked about it for just a second, but where was it held, and how did you kind of rally people to help?
Yeah, so I think as some of your listeners know, OceanAid 360 is guide led. I'm a charter captain out of St. Petersburg in Tampa Bay. And, it was really kind of born out of my familiarity with the fishery, but also my partner, her name is Danielle. I watched her spend the back half of every lunch hour we'd take down at our local park on the waterfront, and she'd pick up chips bags and everything and stick it into her pub sub plastic bag. And she just felt really passionate about it. It was her thing, So after some amount of time, I pitched in, and that was the two of us walking up and down the shoreline. And eventually I looked at her and said, well, in my other career life, which is federal grants administration for a variety of different nonprofits, I have some insight into the fact that we could probably get a grant to do this and organize our community members and other folks who are interested in the same. And so we applied for our first grant in 2018, won right out of the gates, our very first proposal, and it gave us the chance to stand up 7 tournament events, which we called Ghost Trap Rodeo tournament events around the perimeter of Tampa Bay, about one every month and a half over the course of a year. Well, we were supposed to collect 15,000 pounds. That was our target over the course of those 7 events, and we got 27,000 pounds.
Wow.
So from there, NOAA, the NOAA Marine Debris Program, and the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, they invited us to consider expanding the project and to continue to receive some funding to stand up similar tournament events from Apalachicola down to Key West and back up to Jacksonville. So since our first event in October of 2018, we're now at 260,000 pounds of predominantly lost and abandoned stone crab, blue crab, and spiny lobster traps and other forms of marine debris. So that's all your flotsam, plastic bottles and styrofoam and all of that. Mm-hmm. So, rope, exactly. That's right. So this most recent event at Indian River Lagoon, it was funded by FWC through a small grant that they put out to bid, and we won the grant award. And it was specifically focused on shoreline debris cleanup. So as I think you'll know real well, and a lot of your listeners know, in the Indian River Lagoon, you've got a lot of natural shoreline. They're blessed with a lot of natural area that in Tampa Bay, we're mostly surrounded by residences and all of that kind of thing. but over there they've got a lot of shoreline that is accessible by boat or kayak, So we were able to organize volunteers, get a lot of folks out. Like I said, Blair Wiggins and his team came out and helped to organize their followers. And it led to a really phenomenal event. 5,000 pounds of debris out of the water in a combined 8 hours. And yeah, we incentivized volunteers through each event with good quality prizes from fishing sponsors. A lot of that's organized for us by Coastal Conservation Association of Florida. And yeah, it's just phenomenal impact. And I'm actually talking to you today from Key Haven, down near Key West, right. Where we are going to be doing 3 days more of cleanup on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday this week in September. And focused on an area of shoreline that's got storm debris and a lot of liveaboard debris coming into the shoreline and boat ramp debris, just human interaction. And it's one of the most concentrated areas of garbage along a natural shoreline that we've ever seen in Florida.
So explain that. Like, you're going to focus on a certain part, and you're starting in Key Haven. Is that where this thing starts, or you just happen to be staying there?
Phenomenal question. So at the Indian River Lagoon, our circumstance was a bit different. FWC determined our project geography for us, right? They said, we want you to fan out around the Indian River Lagoon, from basically Titusville all the way down to the town of Cocoa, and send folks in all directions, try to do some survey work ahead of time, which we did, map some of the hot spots, and then we sent our volunteers by boat, kayak, paddleboard, on foot, in all directions to fan out and make a good quality impact. Down at Key Haven, the circumstance is different because you have a very localized area around the Key Haven public boat ramp, where debris seems to be concentrated and congregating at a rate that's just higher than anywhere else around it. Yeah. So this particular stretch of shoreline, I think it had run about 600 yards, something like that. And you can literally walk on the bottles and all of that stuff for the entire stretch.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I lived on Key Haven for a long time on Azalea. I don't know what road you're on right now, but that was my boat ramp, that I put in on so much. And I don't know where all that trash is coming from. I'm assuming from the liveaboards out there, but maybe not entirely. Because you got a tremendous amount of current coming in Boca Chica Channel there, and it could be coming in or out there, and that is just like a collection zone.
That's right.
Natural collection zone for weeds or plastic bottles or flip flops or whatever happens to be there. But man, that's such a great thing that you're doing there to clean all that up.
Well, we're really fortunate in this case, and down in the Keys, we have earned the trust, I think, and the respect of a lot of the commercial operators down here and the guides, and the other nonprofits operating locally. So for this event, we're partnered up with Reef Relief, which is very well known, based out of Key West. Also, going to have some help from Conch Republic Marine Army, and from others as well. So, at Surfrider Foundation in the Keys as well, of course. So everybody's turning out their volunteers to try to make it a success.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm hoping here as well, is that people that listen to this and that are in the Keys or familiar with the Keys or within a driving distance of the Keys could come down there and give you a hand. How would somebody do that? Like if they're thinking, well, I'm in Key Largo, that's cool. Maybe they'll come to my area, so I'll participate in this one. Pay it forward a little bit or whatever. How would somebody do that? Do they need to call you in advance, or do they need to just show up, or what?
You know what? We'll take them any way we can get them. But oceanaid360.org, that's oceanaid360.org, has a link to the Eventbrite page. And it's fairly easy to do. Alternatively, if somebody just wants to Google Eventbrite Ocean Aid 360, it'll pop right up. Can't miss us.
You also have your social media. You got a good Instagram.
Yep.
That's how I've learned about what you were doing, and we were able to put this together real quickly, is just from your Instagram. So don't take your foot off the gas there. I think you're touching a lot of people.
Thank you.
Getting a lot of people familiar with what you're doing. It seems like just like the best organization. Like there's no hidden agenda here. Like you're picking up trash out of the ocean. Do you ever encounter anyone that doesn't support what you're doing?
No,
Like it
not
seems
so
like just
far.
the most simple thing. We're pulling
Yeah,
things that shouldn't be in the ocean. We're pulling them out. I guess maybe
yeah.
people that like to lobster off of
Right, right,
tires
right.
or
Casitas or
something. You
whatever.
know, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when it's shoreline debris and kind of mixed debris like this, no, I think that everybody sees the benefit. On occasion in the past, when we've had events that were focused on derelict and abandoned traps,
Mm-hmm.
right? So crab traps or lobster traps, we do sometimes have some pushback, let's say, from local commercial fishing communities. But once it's interesting. We would have people early on from the commercial side, and they'd come into our comment thread underneath our Facebook post and try to blow us up, and say, these guys don't know what they're talking about. And they didn't know us at all, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they just assumed that we're coming in with the floppy hats and the big high black socks with our sandals on or whatever. And I would say in the comment thread, I'd say, call me. Can we have a conversation? Here's my number. Call me. Let's talk. And as soon as they understood kind of the impetus or the motivation behind the project, and understood that we really value fishing livelihoods for working watermen and women, and value a good, clean, habitat that supports a healthy and abundant fishery. I think they understand that we are on their side,
Mm-hmm.
right? And folks tend to appreciate that this project is led by somebody who derives income from working on the water as well.
Right. Yeah. Very
So,
cool.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Bringing people together rather than splitting people apart.
exactly.
That's
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
a powerful move.
Yeah.
What about? I think that we discussed this last time, but I don't remember what the answer is. When
Mm,
you're picking up a stone crab trap that's had the line cut by a propeller, or for whatever reason it's just gone, and
yeah.
there's almost no way to find that for
Mhm.
the crab fishermen, and
Right.
but your people come across it, and you're operating on a permit that allows you to pick this stuff up, because it's not
Yeah,
like you should just go out there and mess with someone else's fishing gear.
exactly.
So I'd like for you to touch on that real quick. But what happens to these traps? Because a stone crab trap that has the buoy cut off
Yeah.
is still a good trap, right?
Yep.
So is there a way that somebody could get it back, or
Yep.
like, can you go over that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm happy to. I would say that that's one of the lessons learned over the course of our programming since we started in 2018, is that our trap retrieval events really focus on the closed fishing seasons, right? So there's no confusion
Mm-hmm.
whatsoever about whether a trap should be pulled or not. If it remains in the fishery and it's not a pinfish trap, which is permitted to be out any time of year, if it's a crab trap or lobster trap and it's fishing during the closed season for that species, then it comes on out. So one thing that is intriguing, I think your listeners would be interested in, is the fact that our wire mesh blue crab traps, they get dipped in a concrete slurry by like St. Mary's River Keeper or various organizations here in Florida, or by the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources, I guess it is. They dip those wire mesh traps in a concrete slurry and stake them out and create living shoreline projects with them to recruit larval oysters and clams, and reduce shoreline erosion and contribute to water quality improvement through filtration, right?
Who does that? Who does that project?
So the South Carolina DNR has taken, so far, I think they've taken 300 blue crab traps from us, and they're looking for more. And then here in Florida, we have worked with a environmental consulting company called Young Bear Environmental Consulting, and they've worked for the city of Fernandina Beach, and also up closer to Amelia Island. They did some work.
Very
So,
cool.
yeah. So that's been really exciting. We've had a chance to visit a couple of those projects and see the new oyster reefs that have been piloted by this wire mesh blue crab trap materials. I will say that in the case of the stone crab traps, that's more challenging because the 35 pounds or so of concrete that's poured into the bottom of most of those traps is something that recyclers are not yet capable of processing. If there was no concrete in it, or if we took the time to sledgehammer or whatever every single trap, then they might be able to deal with it. But so far, there's no way for us to efficiently process those traps and for recyclers to take them with the mixed materials that they have.
So what happens to them?
Those go to landfill.
Okay.
Yeah, which isn't optimal. We really want to find a better way to deal with that, but it's one of the main issues that FWC and other fisheries management organizations are trying to work their way around. And there's a lot of conversation going on with recyclers to figure out what could we possibly do to recycle these traps, because plenty of them come in.
Yeah. What about putting them back in use? Like allowing, you survey the ones that aren't broken and are still serviceable.
Yeah.
Just let commercial fishermen come in there and get them for free.
I could not agree with you more. And it's something that, especially in the Keys, a lot of the commercial guys that we work with, men and women actually, they've said to us, we would love to see a buyback program for these traps.
Yeah.
Of course, and we agree. We think that would be highly sensible to reuse the materials instead of creating new plastics, right?
Yeah, that's the best form of recycling, in my opinion, is like
exactly
reuse.
Yeah. So as you can imagine, FWC's major concern over that is the ownership of the gear. And once a stone crab trap gets branded or has its tags or whatever it may be, or somebody scribes in the concrete on the bottom, their numbers, it becomes highly problematic trying to deal with handing those traps over to somebody else potentially.
Yeah, that does seem really tough.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's something I can at least report to you that conversation is ongoing about that. And everybody recognizes that there's low hanging fruit there. But that ownership issue is a major issue, especially within the commercial fishing group. Nobody wants to see your traps on somebody else's boat,
Right. Well, for sure. I mean, that's, yeah. I haven't even mentioned the lobster traps because they're generally made out of wood. And if those are in the water for a long time, I would imagine that there's a lifespan on those that they just,
exactly,
there wouldn't be much left after a while. They probably last surprisingly long.
They do. They get a few years. Yeah, they get a few years.
Yeah. So one of the things I guess that maybe not everybody realizes about traps is that they keep working even if they're not baited, right? Like that's one of the things that is the most damaging about losing a trap is that thing is, if a fish gets in there and can't get out and ends up dying in there, well, he's now bait. Right. And it just continues to rebait itself and continues to catch, which is, tough.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, that's the phenomenon that your listeners will know as ghost fishing. And every trap that comes up, not every one, but many of the traps that come up through our cleanups have the carapace of, the crop before and a few live ones scrambling around in there. So yeah, I mean, it's very cyclical. And when they die and decompose, they put off a smell and rebait the trap, right? Mm-hmm. So, it's something that is important to address and to get ghost gear, as we call it, out of the fisheries and ensure that any marine resources, whether it's stone crabs or hogfish or whatever it is that's out there, is not dying in unchecked gear. We want it living its best life, and we want it available to us as anglers or coastal economy,
Right. So what are your plans after the Keys? It seems like you're on kind of a run here. You got the Space Coast that you just finished, 5,000 pounds there. You brought in some good partners. I saw, who are all the partners? I saw Salt Strong was part of that deal. Good guys over there. Who else did you have in that?
Thanks for asking. Another one of our big partners on that event is an organization called Current Problems.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't know what they are. I didn't know what that is.
Yeah, a lot of people haven't heard of them, but they've actually been around for about 30 years. They're based out of Gainesville, and they are one of the few organizations that's focused specifically on freshwater lakes and river systems, and the kind of outflows to saltwater environment.
Yeah.
So we, FWC, they thought that we might have some synergy between what we do and what they do, and have an opportunity to learn from each other. And that's kind of how that partnership was forged. So they were great to work with. They're really good at taking the collected debris that comes in and cataloging every bit of it to say, this is how many bottles, this is how many cigarette butts, this kind of thing. And they're actually able to gather a lot of data and metrics on that, and start to get a concept of the origin of some of this debris that's coming into the watershed.
They're counting every cigarette butt and every wrapper and every bottle that comes in.
Yeah,
How many
they do a lot
flip-flops
of
did
that.
they get?
I don't know.
Crocs.
I'm sure it was plenty. Yeah.
And
So
I
we're
wonder in that now there would be some
Yeah.
interesting data there to look at that over time and
Yeah.
see how many flip-flops there are and which foot.
Yeah.
Like,
Always
because
the
I've
left
heard
one.
like you're always finding the left one, right?
Yeah,
In this
the left one.
hemisphere, and the other one goes in the other hemisphere. I don't know if that's true or not.
Right,
but
right,
It is
right.
kind of funny though when you see a flip-flop. It's like, yeah, there's a left one.
It's
just-
like if it falls on this side of the coastal divide, the left one floats over there and the right one.
guess.
I don't know.
I guess.
I don't know. But I will say that I think your listeners would be interested to know that we're going to be putting out a report about, what was found at Indian River Lagoon and kind of the composition of the debris that came in.
So for
Current
them-
Problems is working on that right now.
So for them to be putting that kind of time and effort and detail into counting up the type of trash, they obviously have been able to do something with that data in the past, right? That they see that it's so important that we're going to put people on counting every bottle and counting every cigarette butt. So do you have any idea of like what they've been able to determine or what they've been able to solve by cataloging the trash?
That's a great question. Like I said, I think it would begin to give you some kind of a concept of the origins of this debris that's going into your watershed. But I think to get specifics on that, you'd have to have one of them on.
Yeah, I'd like to. I'm
They're
gonna put them.
phenomenal.
I'm gonna put them on my list because
Please, yeah.
that's very cool. I mean, I wouldn't even think about that. Like,
Yeah.
let's count up every one of these bottles and every one of these cigarette butts and every one of these things because maybe we could determine where it's coming from. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean that's obviously a very simple thing to draw a conclusion, but I'm more along the lines of kind of let's just get it all off the
Right.
shoreline and in a can and away
Right.
away from the water. But
Yeah.
if they could, come up with some solution of where it came from, then obviously then maybe they could prevent it from happening in the future. But
Yeah.
that's
And
super cool.
I think you'll know this, but within the last, say, 5 years or so, and within the coastal cleanup space, there has been somewhat of a move to try to bring attention to, if it's mostly Pepsi bottles or mostly Nestle wrappers or something like that, to say, hey, Nestle, here's your handiwork in the field, what can we do about this? How can we get you guys to pitch in and exhibit some coastal or some social responsibility, So, and kind of as a starting point for some of those conversations.
Huh. Have you noticed a particular brand that shows up more than others?
Well, like all of the single-use water bottles, the
Yes.
plastic water bottles everywhere. We're routinely seeing bait boxes and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
that
and
was a thing about offshore fishermen for a long time. They just felt like, oh, it's cardboard.
Chuck it.
It'll be gone in no time. And it probably would if it was just regular cardboard. But that cardboard's covered in wax or something, some sort
Exactly.
of chemical or something that keeps it from, like keeps it okay in the freezer and everything. But those don't go
Yeah.
away. Like that's
Yeah.
not a good practice to throw that.
No,
in the
it's
water.
certainly not. No, not when it's so easy to stuff it in a hatch and throw it away when you get back in.
Right.
But I think one thing that I wanted to mention to you, you kind of alluded to it, is the fact that we have had a really busy couple of months. In June, we were at Cedar Key, and then in July, we were at Tampa Bay for two events, Biscayne Bay for an event, in the Keys for 3 days of events. In just those couple of events that I named, we took in 81,000 pounds.
Wow.
Indian River Lagoon, and now we're down in the Keys for 3 days this week. And up next, we're going to be in Harbor Island in the Bahamas doing I think this will be our third event there with that community. And they've taken a really strong interest, the local stakeholders and the community leadership there. They've taken a really strong interest in replicating the model that we came up with to hold an annual event that they run themselves. Which is best case scenario for us.
Yeah, well, for sure. I mean, because the whole point is not that necessarily that you pick up all the trash; it's that the trash gets picked up, right? Like,
exactly. I mean, yeah. That's right. And there's so many areas that need attention that to have, to kind of help train and support and build capacity among local communities so that they can do it themselves. That is the entire objective, to hand it over to them so that we can move on and go work on other areas and continue to support them as needed with technical assistance.
I'm not sure how it works in the Bahamas, but it would be interesting to have this discussion too about if there's a community that sees the value in this and then they want to do this.
Yep.
It might not be as easy as just organizing people and going out and picking it up because, there's a permit, right, that you need to get. Could you just kind of touch on that? Like if somebody was interested in doing that, like what's the best way to go about it? I mean, obviously we love their motivation to go pick up trash, and that's fantastic. And there's some types of trash that you could just go pick up, but then there's other types that maybe you want to be a little more careful about.
That's exactly right. Yeah. I mean, a shoreline cleanup, anybody can do that anytime, and we encourage it. A cleanup that's dedicated to derelict and abandoned traps, crab traps or lobster traps, it does require a permit. But we are very interested in adding other organizations, whether it's a homeowners association or the local Audubon group or the local Salt Strong chapter. We're interested in adding those folks into what we do. And the reason is that when there's a seasonal closure, right, for say let's say blue crabs, for example, that closure may run from Pasco County, just north of Tampa Bay, all the way down around to Biscayne Bay, and it'll only last 10 days. So there's, a tremendous amount of coverage area that needs attention, and Ocean-Ade 360 can be in only so many places at one time. Mm-hmm. So it means that a lot of, and there are a couple of other organizations that might pull a permit to do this sort of work. And yes, FWC does have an annual bit of programming that they run for trap collection. But even still, there's a wide open gap there in the amount of kind of environmental services and organizations pulling permits to go out and collect abandoned gear, and the amount of coverage area. So what we always do is invite folks who want to lead something like this or take it up with their community group to reach out to us and let us help them, with all of the learning curve that we went through, we can speed somebody else's process up very quickly, and help them understand how to get through the permit process with ease, and the essentials to stand up a good, clean event in their community that folks will really enjoy. We can pair them with our industry sponsors that provide some prizes and such. And that's it. We don't ask for anything. We're just trying to share the information.
That's super cool. One of the things I would think that would be important to set up in advance would be who's going to take this stuff away. Right?
Yeah.
And how does that work? Like when you set up, is it like the local waste management that provides dumpsters and you just throw it in there and they take it? Or is it like a construction dumpster, or how do you do that? Like at a new event, a new place that you've never been, you don't know how much you're going to get. Like how do you plan for that?
That's a great question. So I would say that we have worked through all of those different modalities that you just described.
Yeah.
We've had occasions where so much debris was coming ashore, like our event that we did in 2022 at the Indian River Lagoon. We had to make an emergency call for a waste management company, like a private contractor, to come and drop off another 20-foot or 30-foot roll-off dumpster, and we filled that one as well, right? I would say that a lot of times we work with municipal waste management, right? And they'll say, let us drop off a bin for you. We are going to charge you something for the dump fees, but we're going to reduce rate because we share your mission. And so we see that a bunch. And in the case of the Indian River Lagoon, just this past weekend, we had a guy and his wife. He's a paramedic for one of the local municipalities there, but has plenty of off days each week. And he and his wife started a company called Dumpster Daddy. And so they go around and they have a small roll off or a dump trailer, a hydraulic dump trailer. And he brought it on both days, helped us load all of that stuff, and just charged us the dump fees, basically sharing the mission. He gave us his time and his resource for free, and charged us only for the dump fees at the city dump.
Awesome.
So
good for him.
Yeah, I mean, these events, they're grassroots, and you never know exactly where the resourcing is going to come from, but people always band together. This is a mission that people love and support. They see the value in it for their area and their fishery. And we've been really blessed in that regard. So we have a lot of expansion going on. In 2024, we're doing our first events at Charleston and up in Long Island Sound, up in New York. And so, headed up there in October to participate in the Bonefish Tarpon Trust banquet, which is going to bestow a real nice award on one of our benefactors. Okay. His name's Chad Pike, and he's the benefactor for the Grassy Creek Foundation. He's receiving the Lefty Cray Award for conservation support from Bonefish Tarpon Trust, and he's going to be using part of his time up there on the stage in front of all the other folks who support BTT to explain his affiliation with OceanAid 360 and how he thinks other folks should be getting involved with our work.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
A lot of these, I mean, you mentioned Cedar Key, Tampa, Biscayne, the Keys, obviously, hurricane areas.
Yeah.
Most of them, if they haven't been lately, they will be in the future, unfortunately. But wondering how you kind of plan, especially like Cedar Key, and then we just had a hurricane come on Horseshoe Beach, and how does that fit into the plan? Like, I was just kind of wondering, sometimes a hurricane almost always puts a tremendous amount of debris into the water. And just wondering kind of how that fits into your plan of, there was a storm there.
Yeah.
We should probably plan an event, either as soon as possible or sometime in the future, or what, how do hurricanes and natural factors, even if it's just a tropical storm, you could get a lot of stuff into the water that way. How do you kind of use those to kind of set your schedule?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think your listeners will know that when we have major storm activity come through along our shoreline, those municipalities that it's passing closest to, their trap lines, whether it's lobster traps or stone crab traps or blue crab, those traps oftentimes will walk quite far, miles, right, from the original location where the angler set it. So that creates a circumstance where the fisherman that set the trap cannot relocate it potentially. A lot of times that gear will become tangled and bundled in such a fashion that nobody's prepared to get it with anything other than a dive knife and scuba equipment. So there's that. At Cedar Key, more, something that we all have our minds on right now, considering those folks up in the Big Bend region suffered such a dramatic hit, just a couple of weeks ago. We were there in June, I believe it was, like I said, and we were focused specifically on the aquaculture debris, right? So in that area, they're doing a lot of clam aquaculture. And what we found is that the cover netting, the plastic cover netting that's used for a lot of those clam leases, can become detached and go missing. It ends up in the trees, tangled around everything. A lot of the guys running boats through that area report having it tangled up in their props, et cetera, et cetera. So each location that's impacted presents a different series of factors, let's say. And like Cedar Key, that's going to be aquaculture gear. So we're always looking at like what are the factors at play for each location, and when a major storm event comes, like you said, we do plan our next opportunity to get to that municipality. We go, and it also means, of course, that state funds and federal funds oftentimes become dedicated to those areas. So fortunately, we have been able to tap into resources to go and help respond to some of those spots. But yeah, it's something that we watch very closely, of course. When those storms happen, the onshore debris that makes it into the water is definitely elevated, and the fisheries debris is elevated as well.
Man, after Irma, there was a wad of traps and trap lines right out in front of Hawks Cay, right in front of the head pins at Hawks Cay. I mean, it was 40 feet across, a knot. Like if you imagine like your fly line coming up and making a knot, imagine that tight, bundle of fly line.
Rat's nest.
40 feet across, both sides. I mean, there must have been 20 different traps just getting spun like a washing machine. I've seen that out in the Marquesas too after a big storm. I don't know what happens to it in the Marquesas. This place, at least, you're right by a boat ramp, and you could and somebody came and got it. I never saw who got it, but
I can report to you that our some of our counterparts from FWC just got back from the Marquesas today. They were on a multi-day dive down there doing survey and cleanup work, and they got over 2 miles of trap line.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really great. Yeah, that trap line, it's especially when they lose the buoy, it's not the fisherman's fault, right? It's somebody else's fault. Somebody ran over your buoy, or I don't know, you guess you could have a storm and rips the buoy apart, or I don't know, something hits it. But
boat strike is most common, I would say.
For sure. Yeah. So you mentioned a bunch of things that you got going in the future, all the way up to Long Island Sound. Anything after that, or do you have any goals for the next couple of years for OceanAid 360?
You know what? We're working on finalizing. I try not to talk about stuff before it's done, but I think this one's pretty close. We're finalizing a memorandum of understanding with the government of the Bahamas to start to export the model that we've done at Harbor Island to other islands like Abaco and Bimini would be the next, and show that model to other communities and start to involve local schools, local municipal leadership, and residents and businesses in our process, and try to stand up some other annual events that would over time become sustainable and be handed over to those communities as well. So that's something I'm really excited about.
That's fantastic. What would you say the comparison of the commercial fishing and the gear in the Bahamas versus United States? I mean, I think we do a lot more trapping, and
for sure,
because I see like commercial lobster divers over there, and they're diving for lobster, but I don't know that I've ever really seen trap boats. Maybe I have. I don't know.
You're exactly right. The amount of trapping that goes on is, I would say, dramatically smaller as a percentage of their fishery than we experience in Florida. The other thing that's kind of interesting about it is that a lot of the traps are kind of makeshift, right? As opposed to standardized traps like you'd find around the coast of Florida or Louisiana, South Carolina, whatever it may be. And we experience the same thing in Puerto Rico, right, where traps are made out of all kinds of different materials and constructs or designs. And we've seen a little bit of that in South Florida as well. Like the event that we just did in Biscayne Bay, somebody had made a lobster trap out of a Home Depot shopping cart. So, I mean, you got to appreciate the ingenuity, I guess, right? But
Hey, sooner or later, somebody will make a better trap.
yeah, exactly,
You know what? Like,
exactly.
you keep
Right,
messing around with it, and
right.
it's, fishermen are smart. Like
Yeah,
they're smart, and sooner or later, I mean,
yeah.
everything gets improved,
You're
right?
exactly
And
right.
it could come from a shopping cart. Like, it seems
Yeah,
like that's silly, but who
yeah,
knows, man?
yeah.
I know that a lot of, the crab guys,
Mhm.
it obviously, the traps obviously catch better when they don't have marine growth on them, because they all have the pressure
Yeah.
washer, and
Yep,
you
yep.
watch them, they get the crabs out, they pressure wash that trap before it goes back, and it goes
Exactly.
right back in. And then there's other
Yeah,
traps that don't catch as good when they're
yeah,
super bright and shiny. And
yeah. That's right.
but I don't know. I mean, everybody figures that out. Like, somebody figured that out. As soon as you put the
Yeah,
trap in the water, it catches the best. And then
yeah,
once it gets all this stuff on there, and the first guy that put a pressure washer on their boat, they probably thought he was crazy. Like,
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
why.
Of
What are you
course.
doing? And then
Right.
every time he comes in full,
His numbers are better.
right? And
Yeah,
then
yeah,
here
yeah.
goes another pressure washer, and another pressure
Right,
washer, and another pressure washer. It's just the
right.
same way with tournaments. Like,
Yeah,
if you change the rule in a tournament,
yeah,
then you know
yeah,
they will figure out how to fish around that rule and
yeah.
create a new technique that works better than what the rule went in to prevent.
Sure,
They
sure.
just Fishermen are good like that. They
Yeah,
are.
exactly.
They're
Yeah.
always good like that.
You're making me think of the breakaway jigs.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, right. Like,
yeah,
I mean, you can take it anywhere in bass fishing and trout fly fishing and in any sort of tournament. I'm sure marlin, sailfish tournaments.
yeah,
They made them use the circle hook, and they didn't want to at
yeah,
first, and now it's like,
yeah.
well, yeah,
Of
let's
course.
use
Yeah.
them. Like, who would want to do it the other way, right? They
Right,
figure it
right,
out.
right. Yeah,
But fishermen are smart, man. They have a lot of
I agree.
ingenuity, and they're smart, and everybody likes to catch easier
Yeah,
than harder,
yeah,
right? So
that's right.
everything gets better.
Yeah.
Well, man,
I,
what?
I want to mention to you really quick. I don't want to gloss over the question that you asked about, our focus in the tropical fisheries. I would say that down there, what we're focused on predominantly, and what we're seeing the most of is like large ocean plastics, right? So large ship rope, all kinds of big buoys and things like that, and then construction materials and such. What we're focused on down there in the Bahamas, and what we were looking at in Puerto Rico on our last visit down there to meet with a local partner named Conservation Conciencia, is storm debris mostly, and stuff that gets carried to their shores from across the world,
Right.
or across the Atlantic, let's say, that may not originate with them at all. So
What did you think about Puerto Rico? How many times have you been there?
I've been there 3 times.
Wow,
Yeah,
it's a place I want to go. I want to
yeah,
go
yeah,
there. I think it would be fantastic. It just seems. I don't know why
yeah.
I've never been, but I've never been to Puerto Rico. It looks amazing.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't had much opportunity to fish there. I know that some of the lagoons and bays can be incredible for tarpon stuff. But I'd invite your listeners to check out another organization. Like I said, it's Conservation Conciencia, SCIENCIA, I believe it is. But they're like Ocean 8360, but they're really focused on the Puerto Rico island and their waters, and a lot of the storm debris after the hurricane that came through there. And they've done a phenomenal job at organizing commercial fishermen, and they've taught us some things that we've brought back here to the Florida mainland. So, well worth looking at. And I think it just speaks to the fact that there are a lot of reasons to feel positive about what's going on in the fisheries, and about local groups really making a positive and bright impact that is growing. So we need, I think a lot of times people expect that as a nonprofit, like, all we're going to ask for is money, give us money, or something like that. The cash certainly helps, but honestly, the biggest thing is turning up to an event, and getting boots on the ground and helping us focus on watersheds and habitat improvement. And believe it or not, one of the biggest things that all of our large industry sponsors or fishing companies or whatever, what they want to see nowadays, is a social media following. They want to see that people are watching your work, and that when Mercury, which is one of our sponsors, comes online, that other folks are going to know about it as well. So believe it or not, as corny as it sounds, liking and following the social media accounts for OceanAid 360 and other nonprofits that you care about, it actually does have a real positive impact on our work and our ability to continue operating.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I've seen that with lots of other conservation organizations as well.
Yeah.
So this is your chance. You've got now. Am I reading this correctly? It says the 13th through the 15th. So is that
Yep.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday?
Yeah, man.
I'm not
Sure
always
is.
very good with dates and days.
Same.
Coming from a guy that just fished for a long time,
Yeah.
you just go pretty much
Yeah.
every day. But
Exactly.
so Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday this week, because this is
That's
going to
right.
come out tomorrow. This is going to come out on the
Yep.
13th
Yep.
of September, which is Wednesday. So then, if you were listening to this on the 13th, you would have tomorrow and Friday to go down to Key Haven, which is
Yep.
right above Key West, and you would have an opportunity to help in this cleanup.
Yeah, and the event's going to be hosted by Beach Weekend Marina, which is right there on the same shoreline at Key Haven.
It's the
We're going to have
former Murray
supply.
Marine.
Yep,
For
yep,
people that are more familiar with that.
right. And
Boog
we're going to have
Powell's before
all
that.
your. Which one was it before?
Boog Powell.
Oh yeah,
That was
Boog
his.
Powell.
That was his marina, and then the Murray
Gotcha.
boys had it, and now it's the new owners.
I gotcha. Well, we're going to have all the supplies. We're going to have free lunch brought in. We're going to have prizes each day of the cleanup, and make it a nice experience for people. So anybody that's got the time available and shares our mission and wants to see a cleaner, healthier fishery here, please come on out. We could use your help.
For sure. I wish I could come. I'm not going to be in town, but are you going
All
to be
good.
set up at the marina there? Or are you going to be set up at the boat ramp, or where is the
We're going to be set
gathering?
up at the marina.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to have a couple of tents set up and refreshments and our supplies station and all of that. And yeah, we're accepting folks who want to come by skiff, use a boat to work the shoreline, or folks who want to come by foot or kayak, of course. But yeah, our rendezvous point is at Beach Weekend Marina.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
man. Well, Neill, good job. Congratulations and kudos to you, and thank you
Thanks,
for
Tom.
what you're doing and what OceanAid 360 is doing. Everybody wants a cleaner ocean. Nobody wants to look at trash, and that's what you're doing. You're cleaning
That's
it
right.
all up and doing it in a fun way that's inclusive and getting a lot of people involved. I love it. I can't I couldn't be more in support of anything. Sounds
Thank you.
awesome. So
Thank you. Yep.
OceanAid360.org is the website, and Captain Neill Holland right here with us. You can probably just reach out to him if you had questions. So
That's right.
either way, I fully support it. If you're around and you can go down to the old Murray Marine or the new beach. What's it called? Beach
Beach
Weekend.
Marina.
So that would be fantastic. Pick up a few bottles and I'm sure you're going to find lots of other stuff in those
Oh, yeah.
mangroves.
Without a doubt.
But anyway,
Yeah.
okay. Well, Neill, thanks again for what you're doing. I really appreciate it, and hope that some people that are listening to this go down and help out.
Thank you, Tom. We sure appreciate that, and looking to coming back on when we get 300,000 pounds.
Let's do it.
All right,
We'll set a
man. Rock
date.
and roll.
All right. Thanks, Neill.
See you, bud.